Hey guys, it's me, Dream Eater again, and so coincidentally, this seems to have been posted not too long after I made my video. Coincidentally, Psychosis Mitosis writes, "I like the new quick start decks." All right, well, let's hear your argument, buddy. Let's see here. I may get a lot of hate for this. Well, I mean, I like to be fair. I try at least. Anyway, but I'm going to be real here. While I do understand the frustrations that come from the decks being many vanilla, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Like, this product wasn't made for us who already knows who already know how to play the game. Sure, they could have implemented simple abilities to the cards instead of just making them all vanilla, but while Vanguard can get complicated with its rulings, it's a fairly simple game once you understand the basics of the flow of the game. Once a player understands it, they can basically play any deck as long as they understand what their deck wants to do. Now, I do agree with you there. I mean, yeah, to be 100% fair here, they are not made for, well, they don't seem to be made for, like, just regular players. The promo packs do make me wonder what's going to be in the actual, like, it's going to make me wonder what their plan is with the promo packs, if it's going to be like old reprints, not exactly like, you know, actual promo cards, like just if it's like, basically, if it's like really not mediocre per se, but just like different kind of stuff with certain abilities for kids to try out, then okay, I'm full for this. But that still doesn't change the fact that they're not going to get a ton of sales because, well, kids barely have enough allowance as it is. And again, these are more expensive than the old start decks, which had a lot more going with them. So I still don't understand Bushiroad's strategy here because it's clearly not the same. I mean, if you want to say adjustment for inflation, that's fair, I guess, but it just still doesn't make too much sense. It just feels like they're kind of throwing darts at a board here and just hoping something sticks. Anyway, I feel that perhaps they made these start decks even more simple because Vanguard is now collaborating with Coro Comics, which in turn will introduce a younger audience into Vanguard or spark the interest of people who've never played the card game before. And I do think this is a fair judgment. Yeah, if Coro Comics is like for younger audience, then and younger audience are going to get into this game. You do want to make it simple, but I still feel they should still have the skills a little bit, you know, there should still be some level of resource management with it, which I guess that is what the promo packs are for, but I don't know. And either way, let's see. One of the best ways to teach someone how to play Vanguard is by playing with no abilities. But it was always unbalanced due to how some decks are structured. Oh, I see. Yeah, like basically Bastion. Take, for example, the original OG start decks, Bastion and Buff Sagora, and are probably the two best starter decks out of all of them. But if they were to teach a new player through vanilla tactics, they would probably be the two of the worst decks because Bastion heavy grade 3 count and Buff Sagora's dead order cards. Yeah, I gotta agree with you there. That's a good point. That is a good point. At least with these new quick start deck products, I believe they'll be more fairly balanced and when teaching someone how to play. And this kind of brings me back to what I said in my last video, where I said that they should just make a full Cray Elementals deck with interchangeable grade 3s of different nations. Like just one deck and then 5 or 6 different grade 3s to test out the abilities. I feel like that would have been a more fair, like, way for them to do this. They could keep the $700 price tag on it, and the kids would still have an ability, or would still have the ability to try out every single clan or nation or whatever. But that's not what they did, and here we are. Anyway, But like I said, while I understand the majority of the cards being vanilla isn't necessarily a good thing for a person who's just getting started, what's so wrong about these with the start decks? When upgrading them, if they're interested in the card game. Some of the best parts about card games is deck building. Maybe I'm too optimistic, but the majority of the decks being vanilla, it would make it a lot easier to replace cards that you would want in a deck. And while I understand that sentiment, hold on, I gotta just interject here. Deck building is definitely one of the funnest things about playing card games, but it's also one of the most nerve-wracking because me just talking from experience, it's always daunting trying to figure out what's the best ratio of cards to put in a deck. That's why I came up with that deck over hand ratio thing, which I'm going to have to redo a video on that eventually. Anyway, deck building can be very challenging. So some players do want to just try out the game with just a very simple deck that they can work off of. If they can't really work off the deck like that, it's just it sometimes can become really hard for new players to build decks. Anyway, back to the thing. At the end of the day, I think these new quick start decks are good products. Are they perfect? No, but that doesn't diminish its value in what it's trying to accomplish, which is just a simple product to introduce someone into Vanguard so they'd understand the basics of and flow of the game. A lot of this is just my personal opinion. If you disagree with anything I said, that is fine. Let's just be civil. And yeah, I do still disagree. Like, I think they could have definitely gone better on it, but I do see your point. These are definitely meant more for like kids, which is why it says a quick start deck rather than start deck or even trial deck. So at the very least, they are categorizing it as its own thing. What I'm just wondering is, are they going to make it purely for children, or are they going to try to give it for both people? Because if they do it for both sides, well, financially, that is a very smart strategy. It is also a very terrible for your rapport with your players. If you're legit gonna like lock, what's it called? Lock these promo packs behind these quick start decks. Because my goodness, it's like, it just don't make you look good. I'm sorry, Bushy Road. But anyway, Kurosawa Shiro retorts with, Bushy's not marketing to a younger audience, not to illiterate people. And I do have to agree with Kuro on a lot of his points here, so we'll just read his thing and I'll end the video there today. The OG, okay, that's the second time this has happened. Do you mean OG or actually OD? Original dress? Original dress? I don't know. The OD starter deck is basically the best product to shill to younger kids. Of all words, why'd you have to use shill? 33 yen, something a kid could definitely afford with allowances such as snacks, as snacks are like around 100 yen. Yeah, exactly. They won't have to save up that much in order to get a deck. Comes with cards that do something to teach stuff like Soul Blast and Charge and Counter Blast Charge. Inherently upgradable into something better while still retaining the core of the deck. And I want to just reiterate, those start decks, those really do a lot. Like, I've been playing through the Dear Days game with just the trial decks, and those start decks, they carry a lot of weight. Like, especially Nirvana. I mean, hot take there, but like Nirvana can like kick some serious butt. So, you know, it's nice that kids would have that ability to upgrade their decks immediately. I mean, if they just have it all like vanilla, it's just going to be that much harder for kids to upgrade their decks. At least I think it would. I don't know. Then we got the quick start decks. 700 yen, twice the price of the previous one. Doesn't come with anything aside from the grade 3, which might teach the other mechanics. Yeah, but how good is the grade 3 going to be? Is it going to be like a grade 3 that like does like 50 things in one, is like the text going to be barely legible for anyone older than like 20. Like you need some seriously good eyesight in order to see that text. You talk about start decks being unbalanced, then what is the grade 3 ends up being unbalanced? Or what if the grade 3 ends up being unbalanced between the start decks? Basically, ditch everything but the Sentinel and triggers if you want to update the deck, as we still don't know if we'd even get a proper grade 1 and grade 2 in the future, i.e. basically like the ride line grade 1, grade 2. See, if Bushi released full vanilla decks, literally aside from the Sentinel, which can be changed to like the old 300 or 30 to 50k guard Sentinel, no effects at all, not even grade 3, then charge it 300 yen or less, and I'm sure many wouldn't have any problem with that, because yes, that's definitely not something for any experienced player and a product made solely to introduce someone who never played a card game before. You see, this does okay, hold on. It introduces them to the game, and the experienced player has nothing to gain from buying it aside from triggers and sentinels. Exactly. So that is the kind of like the thing. It's like if these new grade 3s do end up being something really good where we actually have to buy them, or worse, the freaking promo packs, which are random, by the way. If these promo packs have something good that regular people are going to want, then people are going to be buying like empty decks just to throw away the cards. It's like, what is going to be the point of having these decks if there's no point to even having them? I just don't understand. But the promo is definitely meant to entice existing players, and on top of that, a 700 price tag isn't a throwawayable price tag for kids whose lunch probably costs around that price. I agree with Kuro on everything he just said. Skycoxis Mitosis responds, personally, I like the older products a bit better too, because of the rear guards with actual abilities, because learning resource mechanics is important. However, I believe that's something you learn along the way. It's similar to how spell speed works in Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah, I haven't been keeping up with Yu-Gi-Oh! Lately. That might be something I have to do. Like, put that in the comments if you want to see me do that. You see me suffer trying to figure out how Yu-Gi-Oh! Works now. It's not necessarily something you learn from the start, but understand as time goes on. In regards to balance with the grade 3s, I don't know if they'll be balanced or not in comparison to each other. However, that's not the point I was trying to make. I was referring to the ratio of grade 1s, 2s, and 3s. Yeah, I mean, I even got that, but yeah. Even if one of these new decks are centered around rear guards with specific grades, they could just include more of that grade. Now, how is this any different from older start decks? The difference is that these cards are actually vanilla. The only skill that the player has to think about is their grade 3 Vanguard, and surely these units will function. If you were teaching someone with the old start decks and say that we can use the grade 3 Vanguard skills, then sure, it will be similar to those new start decks. But the problem is that now Nirvana is useless because you can't overdress. Bruce is more difficult because you can't get soul from skills. Seraph's prison can't function properly, etc. Now it's become a game of exceptions at that point. You might as well just play the game normally, but the problem is that there's so much to learn that it can be overwhelming. The basics are the basics, but when you have to manage resources, learn keywords, learn writing, mechanics, and such, it can be too much. But I'm not saying players can't learn, because of course they can, but you don't just play a fighting game and is expected to know all the strings and combos. It's something you learn over time. But the best part is, if you want to start the game and you want to try cards with abilities, there's always the original start decks for cheaper, of course. If you're more into the design or playstyle of the newer start decks, then the option is there, just slightly more expensive. But regardless of which product you choose, Bushi is a company at the end of the day. Interest equals potential customer. Sorry if I'm coming off condescending. I'm just hoping to clarify my original statement, but I do agree with a lot of what you said. Oh my God. Holy goodness. Okay, this goes on for longer than I expected. Let me see here. Kurosawa responds to, but the problem is that there's so much to learn that it can be overwhelming. And Kuro says, so your solution is just to strip everything so that there's barely anything you can learn aside from basic game mechanic. At least with the old Star decks, you can do no skill matters. We just do all vanillas. Then once you learn the game, you don't need to buy anything else. You just now use the same deck and play with it. Can't do that with the new quick start. Once you're ready to learn more about the game, you have to buy new stuff. Even with the fighting analogy, quick start doesn't work there because in fighting games, you are given a choice of your roster. You can choose to learn basic characters or more advanced gimmicky characters, all with the same game/machine. Yes, I get that the learning is a process, but even then, if someone came up to me and says, hey, I see all these deck sets, I'm new to the TCG in general, but I really want to play Vanguard, which one should I buy? I either put them to the OD 333 yen start decks, as it was my entry to TCG, as I don't do TCG before Vanguard, or the Orifice, Grim Grace, or Favnir sets, preferably the second hand without the pricey card. Oh, shoot. Shoot! What the heck? Where'd it go? Oi, where'd it go? There we go. Oh my goodness. I think this is the most lengthy Reddit post I've ever seen. I've ever read. Oh. Is this it? Hold on. Oh, damn. The dude's getting ratioed to death. My goodness. I mean, I see. Okay, you know what? Okay, it is a lot of just rehashing points, I think. Yeah, I'll link this thread in the description, but you guys get the point. So I do agree with the fact that this is definitely made for kids. It's definitely not made for us older players who know the game. It is disappointing that we're not going to be getting a trial deck that we are going to enjoy playing as older players, but at the very least, it is going to be something for newer kids, or just new blood, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. New blood for playing the game. Do I think that we should bash Bushiroad over this? Probably not, just because we don't know what their plan is. For all we know, they have newer start decks for the new anime, which of course they are because of it's Vanguard. Of course they do. These are definitely just for, like, I think younger kids. I do not agree with the price tag, though, for sure. I do not think 700 yen versus 333 yen is a fair price. I don't care what the promos have inside it. That is not fair at all. So I have to side with Kuro on that end. But I do think the whole vanilla decks were a good idea. But like I said, I wish they just made a Cray Elemental deck with interchangeable grade 3s. That would at the very least give newer, like, kids fun cards to play with, but also it gives them special other cards to, fight with. Just, skills and stuff. But regardless, I'll leave it there for you guys. Let me know in the comments what you think, and like, subscribe, and all that. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.